Well, there was once a sultan in the land of Persia, long ago and far, far away. And this man was a very, very clever man. But most of all, he loved puzzles, problems, resolving. He was actually a very well-read man, but that was like his passion. So one day he received a package. And when he opened the package, he found that there was no sender. And inside there were 3 identical dolls and a note inside. Tell these 3 dolls apart. The Sultan rubbed his hands and said, a challenge, excellent. So he picked up the beautifully carved wooden doll, the first one, robed in silk. He said, well, it's beautiful, huh? You got sapphires for the eyes, closed pursed lips. Well, that's interesting. He put it down, he took up the second one, and it was exactly the same, pursed lips, sapphire eyes, clothes made of silk. Picked up the third one, exactly the same thing. Sapphire eyes, pursed lips, and clothes made of silk. He said, well, perhaps they weigh differently. So he started to examine it. The first one, he shook it, and it was pretty solid. He said, well, the second one must be hollow. And he banged the second one very gently, but he banged it, and he said, well, it's pretty solid. And then he grabbed the third one. He said, well, this one has to be different. But it was exactly the same. So maybe they're different woods. He picked it up, and the fresh smell of sandwood rolled up his nose. Well, the second one, he said, well, maybe it's made out of cedar. He picked it up and he said, oh, another one. It's made out of sandwood. And then the third one was exactly the same. Well, I can't tell these 3 apart. He was absolutely mystified. The court was now gathering around, and he laid eyes on the wisest man, the scholar. He called him up. The scholar stepped forward. The scholar who knew everything there was to know, everything that science had discovered. The scholar who would spend hours in the library. He picked up the first doll, smelled it, shook it, examined it, and put it down. He picked up the second doll. Again, he shook it, he smelled it, and he weighed exactly the same. He put it down. He did the third one, and it was exactly the same. The scholar looked at the Sultan and silently went back. All of a sudden, boom, burst open the throne room, and the fool came tumbling in, somersaulting, cartwheeling, tumbling around, laughing like hell. He picked up the 3 dolls and started to juggle. And as you know, to be able to juggle correctly, they have to weigh the same thing. It has to be exactly the same thing. And obviously, he was laughing and laughing and laughing until he got bored, and he said, these 3 are the same. And then, just as he entered, he left. The Sultan was absolutely mystified. He could not tell what the difference was. And then finally, he set eyes on the storyteller. He said, come up, please. The storyteller went up, said, can you tell these 3 apart, said the Sultan. I will try, Your Majesty. He picked up the first doll, he examined it, beautiful sapphire eyes. And as quick as lightning, he pulled one of the Sultan's long white beards, a hair from his beard. And he started to introduce it into the ear of the first doll. Further and further and further went in, until finally it disappeared. The storyteller looked at it and said, this first doll is like the scholar. Everything that he hears goes in and never comes out. It's retained there. He picked up the second doll. He started to examine it. And as quick as lightning, boom, he pulled another straight, long white hair from the Sultan's beard. he started to introduce it into the second doll's ear, further and further, and it went in until finally it started to come out on the other side of the other ear. And it came out completely. The storyteller showed it to the Sultan and said, this doll is like the fool. Everything that goes in comes out exactly the same. The Sultan widened his eyes and said, wow. And he picked up the third doll. This time the Sultan was kind of weary. But before he knew it, boom, he plucked out another white long hair from the Sultan's beard, and he started to introduce it. All of the court's eyes, the Sultan's eyes, were staring at where would it come out, if it would come out. And then when it was going in and in and in, and all of a sudden it started to come out through the pursed lips of the third doll, until it finally came out and sat there, or was laid on the storyteller's palm. And when the storyteller looked closely, he saw there was a twist in that hair. He picked up the doll and gave it to the Sultan and said, sire, this doll is like the storyteller. All the stories that go in, and he or she retells them, comes out, but always with a twist. Because every time a storyteller tells a story, it comes out just a little differently to make it his or her own. The end.